to talk about Administrative Appeals Tribunal, which will be looked after by my colleague from Adelaide, Vaishali. So welcome, Vaishali, to the live session. Next is the parent visa, which will be covered by Mr. Prince Pahal from Brisbane, who will be looking after, who has actually a long-term work experience in this industry, and he's, we are very fortunate to have him here as well. So thank you very much, Prince, for joining us.
Thank you, Ever.
And we have Mr. Nirav from Melbourne, who will be talking about employer sponsorship visa. Thank you, Nirav, for joining us as well.
Thank you.
And I will be talking about the Global Talent Independent Program. So now, without wasting further time, Vishali, I would like to invite you and talk about Administrative Appeals Tribunal, and when people get a visa refusal, what are the things that should look at, whether they should look at the review rights and all those things, and in what circumstances they should look for a review and what circumstances they shouldn't be looking for it. So if you can give us a brief understanding, that will be really helpful.
All right, sure. So as the name suggests, Administrative Appeals Tribunal is to appeal the decisions which applicants receive either as in terms of refusals or visa cancellations. There are two types of decisions usually, or maybe more than two, but the most common will be migration-related decisions or refugee-related decisions, which also cover the character-related decisions. Now, applicants can apply against these decisions within certain time limit. I'll quickly go into the details so that I could be spot on. As long as the time is concerned, usually migration-related decisions will have 21 days time to appeal, and refugee decisions, refusals or cancellations against refugee visas will normally have 28 days time to appeal. But if the applicant is in detention, immigration detention because of the refusal or cancellation, they will have 7 days time to lodge the appeal application. Other character-related decisions will usually have 28 days time, but if it's a character cancellation under Section 501, which is an intensive kind of character test, the applicants will have 9 days time to appeal. But usually the everyday decisions that we have are related to migration, which could be student visas, which could be temporary visa refusals, which could be migration visas refusals. They will have 21 days time to lodge an appeal application. The fees for appeal application will be 1826 if it's a visa refusal against a migration application or other visas, except the refugee visas. Currently, refugee visas don't have any administration appeal fee in the beginning. The 50%, there is a chance for 50% reduction if applicants are suffering from severe financial hardships. In that case, if the applicant has to pay, they will be allowed to pay at just 50% of the total application fee. There is a 50% refund on winning the case as well. So usually, once you lodge an appeal application, after a while, the case will be open. It depends on the time, process time for every visa application. But once the appeal opens, applicants have a chance to apply for a hearing. If the hearing is won, then they get a 50% refund of the total fees that they have earlier paid. Now, in the decision, either the case is remitted or the decision is upheld. If the case is remitted to the department, the application will continue to process unless it's a student visa cancellation. In case of cancellations, you might need to lodge a student visa application once again if there has been a cancellation. In usual circumstances, once you lodge an appeal, the bridging visa that was granted to you when you first made an application for a substantive visa will continue. But if it's a cancellation, you might still need to go for a BVA on your own, a bridging visa E, so that your stay won't be illegal here. That bridging visa will continue until a decision is taken on your AAT application. So this is the rough idea how an AAT process quickly works.
Thank you very much, Vaishali. Now, we have already started getting the questions in the comment box, and viewers, you can put in your questions in the comment box, and we will start looking at the questions, and we will prioritize the questions over the topics. So first of all, Ramandeep is saying hi. Hello, Ramandeep. She's saying hi to everybody, basically. So, and Mr. Zaheb Ullah is asking a question about Section 48. He mentioned that it's very urgent. And the question is that how long does the AAT take? And what's the time duration? And also Ramandeep Kaur is also saying hi to Vaishali, to you. Nice to see you again. So But yes, if you can take the question, which is how long does the AT take? And I think what Mr. Zahid is asking is pretty much, he's an AT. What's the time duration that is likely to uh, process? For the processing time, what's the likely time? And I think he's intending to apply for a PR or something, so that's why he's worried about the Section 48 bar.
Yeah, it still depends on the type of application that you were refused. But on an average, if it's a migration or temporary or student visa application, roughly it has taken at least 12 months so far. These days, the AAT decisions are really quick, but on an average, it has definitely been more than 12 months. So you can expect somewhere about 12 to 18 months if we go according to the current process time.
Right. Thank you very much, Vishali. Now, the next topic that we are going to cover is the Global Talent Independent Program. So now, with the Global Talent Independent Program, there are two options, which will be, anyways, I'll cover the topic. So either you have been on, if you have been earning, let's say 153,600, and if you're in one of the 7 industries that are mentioned in the Global Talent Independent Program, then you can also apply for an expression of interest. Or you have completed a research degree, either master's by research or a PhD degree within last 3 years, or you're going to complete a research degree or PhD degree within the next coming 6 months. Then, and you have to provide an evidence that you are exceptionally talented person. Again, you are from one of those 7 industries that are available for a global talent independent program, and you have to demonstrate that you will have a potential to earn minimum 153,600 or more every year. So, or let's say in the longer run, basically. So, uh, then only you can qualify for a global talent independent program. Now, how the process works is that you have to justify that you are an exceptional talented person, which is you write down your cover letter explaining your skills, provide an evidence of your achievements. If you're working in the industry and if you have the salary, provide an employment contract. If you are in the if you're a research student, provide your research proposals or research outcomes or research published papers. And with all these documents, you need to submit your expression of interest with your qualification in English language ability if you have one. Um, and after the expression of interest, you wait for the outcome. If you are invited to apply for the 858 visa or a global talent independent program, then you apply for an expression for the visa. With the talent independent program would have given you the or the case officer would have sent you an email with the invite where it will have the uh, unique identifier number, which you can utilize to apply for your visa application. So that connects to the invitation connects to your visa application when you use that number. And this way you can lodge your application for an 858 visa. But if you do have a questions around this, again, as I mentioned, that you can put in the questions in the comment box and we will try and answer your questions as much as we can. Now we have already got a next question in our comment box, which is, um, so Mr. Norman is asking that there is no response. The GTI lodged in June 2020. Should I consider it to be rejected, or they will definitely reply yes or no or whatever? Yes, Mr. Norman. So definitely you will get an answer whether it's yes or no, but you have to wait. There is a delay because the department has received a very huge number of invitations or expression of interest for the Global Talent Independent Program. So they are taking time to process. We have seen that the applications lodged in May or June have started getting an answer now. So whether it is yes or no, irrespective of the outcome, you will be notified whether you are approved or rejected. Now, the next question is from Bikram. So the question from Bikram is, how long does it take, or how long will it take for somebody to get an invitation for 190 from WA, 75 points on electrical engineering? So is there anybody on the panel who can talk about Western Australia today? So I think I'll take this question. So if you are in Western Australia, and if you are a recent graduate of Western Australia, and you have completed a bachelor's degree or master's degree from there, yes, you're likely to have a invitation with electrical engineering with 75 points for 190. However, Western Australia has not started or commenced their invitation program yet. So I would suggest, yes, you keep waiting, but what you need to do is you need to make sure that you have a job offer, because that was the last known criteria, that they require you to have a job offer once they invite you to apply for a state nomination. And if you don't have the job offer in your nominated occupation, you may not qualify for a nomination, right? The next question is from Norman again. So GTI program, is there any minimum research publication requirement for a PhD research, or it depends upon other factors too? Have you seen any examples of who got the visa with 2 or 3 publications? Yes, Mr. Norman. So with even 2 or 3 publications, it's not bad. If you have completed a PhD in, a PhD qualification in any of these 7 industries, if you do fall in these industries, and if you have provided a cover letter explaining your achievements and explaining that how you can potentially earn the minimum salary of 153,600, please know that you don't have to be earning this amount right now. You have to just demonstrate that you will be able to earn this money in a longer run, if because you have already got a PhD. So the requirement is very clear that you either have a PhD or you have a potential to earn this money, or you are already having an employment contract with this salary. So yes, definitely, I believe that with these 2 proposals as well, or 2 research that you have and publications, that is good enough as long as it falls under one of these industries. One more question, Vishali, for you is from Mr. Zahid again. So his question was about Section 48. Can you please tell me, federal government will remove Section 48 or it will stay forever?
Okay, now when it comes to laws, of course, it's not easy to change these sections that immediately. I think there may be some provision. So Section 48 cannot be changed. If there are some temporary provisions which could be inserted, for example, if they would still allow applicants to lodge an application here just for time being, which seems difficult though because it's a law. I think, yeah, to be honest, it may not be possible if you are barred by Section 48. It's
Okay.
a really critical thing.
Thank you very much, Vishali, for giving that insight. Now, the next question is from Shyam. So Shyam's question is about, does Western Australia provides a state sponsorship to ICT security specialists? Mr. Shyam, now at the moment, the Western Australian government has not provided the list. However, if you are a South Australian, Western Australian graduate, definitely, most of the times the occupations are there on the list. So I would say, yes, there are chances that this occupation will be on the list, but it is very hard for us to tell you right now because we don't have the occupation list available at the moment. The next question is about employer sponsorship visa, which is, I think, the next topic that we're going to pick. So Ram Dahal is asking, how about employer sponsorship visa for a chef in Melbourne? Can you please share the criteria and its eligibility? So Nirav, I would come down to you for this question, but not only for this question. I would suggest if you can please cover up your topic as well in this. What are the criteria for an employer sponsorship? What are the visa options, and how people should take these applications forward? Over to you, Nirav. Thank you.
Yes, yeah. So I think even after answering these questions, mostly the answer will cover broadly. Like it can maybe everyone get to know about the 482 visa requirement. So the 482 employer sponsor visa and the 186 employer nomination scheme visa are like an alternative pathways for an applicants who initially targeted the general skill migration if they have like a number of years of experience. So initially, like for 482 employees, temporary sponsored visa, there are 2 streams in that one. So one is like based on the medium and long-term skill occupation list, and another is in the short-term skilled occupation list. So if your occupation is as a part of a medium and long-term, you can get the visa for 4 years. And if your occupation is part of a short-term skilled occupation list, you can get the visa for 2 years. However, to get the visa, the minimum eligibility is that you need to have a 2 years of full-time experience, and you need to have that experience as a full-time or equivalent part-time after post-qualification. So that is actually visa requirement. But before visa, there is a like sponsorship and nomination requirement, or the sponsorship and nomination application must have been done through an employer. So for sponsorship, basically, employer needs to provide the company financials documents like their tax returns, financial reports, which proves that company is operating profitably and successfully here in Australia. And for the nomination, they will mainly require for the labor market testing report to be done. They need to provide the genuine position report as well with the salary explanation report. So LMT report will be basically about like putting in advertisements and try to like hire a local Austrian citizen permanent residents, particularly for that position. And if they are not able to hire like right candidate for that position, then only they are hiring you. So we need to prove well, like very strictly, before like making that application. So the visa is associated with the sponsorship and nomination. However, like sponsorship will be easier as long as employer is operating profitably. But for nomination, the LMT and the genuine position criteria is assessed rigorously and strictly. So if you don't meet that criteria, then your nomination might get refused, and ultimately your visa can refuse as well. So however, like working or like get the visa for 482 for a short-term skilled occupation list for 2 years, you can get it renewal for another 2 years, but that will not lead to a permanent residency pathway for 186. But if you get like a medium and long-term occupation list, like as a SEF, so after working 3 years full-time on a 482 with the same employer, that can lead to a 186 TRT nomination pathway. So you can apply for the 186 nomination and visa. So nomination will definitely to an employer, and the visa, like once you complete 3 years of full-time experience and 6 you can apply for employer like 186 ENS visa. However, for short-term skill occupation list, there is no provision for 186, but that can lead you to gain the experience like 2 years, and after that another 2 years might be, and you may apply for different visas in future if you're eligible, like general skill migration, or maybe a 494, which is a skill regional visa. Because if there is a regional employer who like to sponsor you, you can go for a 494, and after completing 3 years of full-time experience and having the skill assessment. And on 494, once you completed 3 years of experience with the same employer, you can go for a 191 ultimately. So those are the ways like that can lead to permanent residency pathways as well in the future. And apart from that, there is a direct entry stream pathways available for medium and long-term occupation list, which is a 186 ENS. So TRT is for the applicants who are already on a 482, and 186 direct entry stream is basically for those people who already have like 3 years of full-time experience and 6 and the skill assessment. So if you meet these 3 requirements, and if you have an employer like, and if they meet the nomination criteria, then you can get the 186 ENS direct entry stream pathway, which is directly a permanent residency visa. However, you need to work with the employer for minimum 2 years, because there is a contract, employment contract involved during getting a nomination and visa. So if you breach that contract, then there are chances that immigration might cancel your visa as well if the employer complain to the immigration. But basically, like these are the different streams, like 482 short-term, 482 long-term pathways, and that can lead to 186 ENS TRT stream, which is based on 482 long-term occupation, and 186 ENS direct entry stream. So I hope I have covered his question and answered briefly for the visa applicant requirement.
That's really helpful, Nirav, and thank you very much for providing the information in so much in detail and very summarized and to the point. Thank you very much. Now, next question that we have from Mr. Atif. Mr. Prince, if you can take this question, which is, any update on a 491 visa applied 5 months ago? I think, Prince, you are on a mute.
My bad. Sorry. Is it clear now? Sorry,
yes.
Sorry about that.
Yes, no, that's fine.
So can you repeat the question again? What was the question?
So the applicant, Mr. Atif Mahmood, is asking that I have applied for a 491 visa 5 months ago. What is the processing time that probably he's looking for?
All right. Thank you for the question, in my experience, on an average, the processing time for 491 visa can vary from about, like, say, 4 months to 8 months, depending on your application. Like, if depending whether you have updated all the documents or not, if it's the decision ready application or not, whether you have done your medicals, you have done your police checks and everything. If it's already been 5 months, you are expecting the outcome pretty soon. I mean, nowadays we have seen that the trend we have been getting from the Department of Home Affairs, that they are processing 491 applications specifically, regardless it's family stream or state nominated stream. I mean, they're getting the outcome for 491 visa application pretty quickly as compared to what we are getting for 189 and 190, where we have seen long delays nowadays, especially since this COVID-19 situation have come up in the picture. So if it's already been 5 months, I would say just wait for another couple of months. You're pretty close to getting the outcome.
Thank you very much, Prince. I think yes, that's what I think as well. We've just got somebody's 491 granted, so I'm sure that the department has started working on the cases now.
All right.
And next question is also for you, and similar to 491. The question is from Smita. The question is, do 3 months of experience required for a 491 under the family stream rather than a state sponsorship? So her question is whether she needs the work experience for a 491 family sponsorship.
Sure. So Smita, to answer your question, for having 3 months of work experience for 491 family sponsored stream, it doesn't apply to you. Reason being, the 3 months experience requirement is for the particular state. So if you would have applied for 491 visa under state nominated criteria, under state nominated visa, obviously just to make it clear to you, for 491 visa, there are 2 separate categories. One comes under family sponsored stream, where there is no as such requirement for the work experience. However, you need to meet the requirement of your family friend, or not family friend, like a family member or relative living in a designated or regional area. So that's the only requirement what department will be looking at. But in terms of experience, there is no as such requirement for 491 family sponsored. However, if anybody applies 491 under state nomination criteria, they needs to meet the 3 months of work experience. And again, that depends on state to state. Some states have no requirements, some states have got more requirements. So depending on the state, which state you're residing in, which state you applied for, it depends on that. So in short, for family sponsored, it doesn't apply to you. So I think it answers your question.
Right. Thank you very much, Prince. Now the next question is from Akanksha. So Nirav, that's from Melbourne. So I would like you to take this question. So the question is, any chance for a 190 visa for a secondary school teacher in Victoria, 1 year Australian experience, and have a regional job offer for next year?
Yes, so for 190 Victoria State nomination, so previously there was like teaching occupation available. There was a requirement of like 2 years of experience as a teacher in Victoria. But recently, like when they have opened it for the critical skilled occupation list, they require like if you have a 6 months experience here, and if you are working in like critical sectors industry directly or indirectly, like even as a teacher, if you are working indirectly for the critical sectors field or maybe critical sectors organization, you may get the invitation. But I think the process for the Victoria State nomination might be remain similarly for this financial year. So like as applying for your expression of interest, then they will you need to apply for the registration of interest. After they select your ROI, you need to apply for the state nomination application. So mainly they will focus for the critical sectors occupations this year. So you need to relate your teaching occupation or your teaching job where you're working, how it can directly or indirectly related to the critical sectors organization.
Thank you very much, Nirav. So the next question is Vishali for you. Risha is asking, so there are a couple of questions coming to you now, Vishali. So be prepared for it. So the first question is how long the AAT takes. She applied 29 months ago. So
okay, it's really been long, but I think you're pretty close now. If it has already been 29 months, you can expect an email from the AAT very soon. It has really been long. On an average, it has been 12 to 24 months, but it's definitely more than 24. Yeah, I think it should be soon now.
And would you recommend Risha to see if she can follow up once?
Yeah, I think they do accept. Of course, there is a provision, you can request a priority processing, but in practice, we have seen that they are not accepted unless there is a compelling reason for the priority processing.
Right.
So unless you could prove a compelling reason, you can still take a chance.
Yeah. So I think, thank you very much. I guess, yeah, that's what I believe as well, that if it is 29 months, you can shoot out an email just once to see if they can allocate your case now to a member and process it faster. Now the next question is also for you. So the next question is from Zaroon Kain. The question is that I am on MRT about 1 year now, doing EN from South Australia. Any chance I get a 491 invitation after study on MRT? A lot of people are studying enrolled nurse in South Australia, which is, I guess, yes, it's a hotspot nowadays for enrolled nurse to study there. And I guess it's a right chance for a lot of people. If they are looking to study enrolled nurse courses, they can definitely go to South Australia or let's say regional New South Wales or Canberra. I'm sure that most likely these options would also come up in Queensland Victoria as well, it's a good destination to study this course because eventually you can qualify for a Victoria nomination. So yes, it's a good course. But yes, over to you, Vishali, for this question.
Yeah, so actually it's a good thing that the applicant is at least utilizing his time while he's waiting on MRT, that he's studying a course that is leading him somewhere. In usual circumstances, yes, you are definitely eligible. As soon as you complete the course, you meet the registration requirements and assessment, you will be nominated by the state. There was a slight hiccup in the last financial year because flights were not scheduled and because there were travel bans all over. They would not accept any files who were barred by Section 48. But I think they had started this procedure once again. As soon as the flight started operating, they started inviting applicants, even those who were barred by Section 48. So the only thing you have to look for is if a decision is not yet received but from the AAT, and if it is not positive, you could be invited, but you will have to fly out to lodge the application. But
Thank
there is
you,
a
Vishali.
chance you will be invited.
Thank you very much for the answer. Nirav Ram is saying thank you very much for covering up his question for 186. Next question is from Ashan Nadeem. And the question is for you, Nirav. So what about 186 TRT hospitality field? They start grant now or not?
So 186, like 186 stream is like, they are granting the visa. It's not like that they are not granting. But if you have like already applied maybe like 5 to 6 months before, then there are chances that they are processing. But they are currently doing a priority processing for the PMSO list, like priority migration skilled occupation list particularly, because we have seen like occupations like software engineers, maybe a mechanical engineer, they are getting priorities, and we have received a couple of nominations in 1 or 2 months for the IT occupations. So definitely hospitality industry as well, and even the trade occupations for the other streams we have received, but that took 5 to 6 months at least.
Thank you very much, Nirav. Next question is also for you. Tarun Buditi is asking, when can we expect the Victoria 190 to open?
So yeah, I think Victoria 190 might take a time because when Victoria opened for the ROI application in September for a couple of weeks, they have not like sorted out till all the quotas, I think, for those ROIs submitted as well, because they have received around 2,500 ROIs in 2 weeks, and they are still processing. And I think they have not maybe processed all of the application yet. So once they will process all of those pending ROIs, then they will plan to open it again maybe for a couple of weeks, and like they will maybe follow this process only, open maybe for a few weeks, get the ROIs, then sort out those ROIs, and then reopen it again. They will do similar things for this financial year.
Oh, thank you very much, Nirav. And now Smita is also thanking for covering up her questions. And I would like to tell our viewers that Aussizz Group does try to make sure that we provide up-to-date information on our social media channels. So I would recommend that you do share this post, because we are trying to reach as many people as we can, so that we can provide the maximum benefits to people through this live sessions. And like people like Mr. Nirav and Mr. Prince and Ms. Vishali have taken a time out from their busy schedule and doing this so that we can help international people in understanding the criteria. So even if they're intending to do these applications on their own, they do not go wrong. Or if they're, even if we could be helpful to some person, whether it's our benefit or not, we do really want to help people. So please do share these videos and do like our page, and also follow us on Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn, so that we can reach out to maximum people. And please do share this post that we put in on our Facebook page, because this intention of this posts are not only to market ourselves or our services, which is also a part of business, but the real intention is to reach out to people and provide as much information as we can through our social media channels. And obviously everybody's here for a business, but that's not the only intention that we have. So please do share these things as well. And now I would also like to take an opportunity to tell our viewers that Aussizz Group not only provides a migration and education services, we do help people with PR, obviously that through our migration services, where PR and student visa, PR and different kind of employer sponsorship visas, family visas, parent visas, by the way, which is the next topic that we are going to cover, a parent visa. And we will also try and make sure that we cover up most of the questions that we get in the comment box today. We are trying to keep our topics very short and straight to the point, so that we can handle more questions in this live session. Now, Aussizz Group do provide education services where we can help you choose the right course, not only choose the right course, but also apply for a student visa, help you understand what are the career prospects of those courses too. And we have CCL tutorials app, which can help you prepare for your CCL test, which is the interpretation from other language to English and English to other language. So you can also practice the CCL exam for the exam on our CCL tutorials app, which is available on app stores. And we do have getmypolicy.com.au, where you can compare health insurance policies for student visa as well as for the overseas visas or health cover, which is generally used for 482 or 485 visas. And Aussizz Group also has another services called ptetutorials.com.au, where you can practice the PTE test. And also we have one more website called searchmyanzsco.com.au, where you can understand but for a particular occupation, you can search out what are the state nominations available and what are the criteria for each state in one particular page, and understand the entire possibility of your occupation. And you can also download the reports of what are the chances of PR and what are the state nominations available, and detailed report basically about your occupation. So you can visit this website to get more information and probably practice your PT or NATI and also compare health insurance. Now moving forward, before I go to the further questions, we'll just quickly cover our next topic, which is a parent visa. So I'm sure Mr. Prince will make sure that he comprises his topic in a short time. So Prince, over to you, if you can explain the parent visa to our viewers.
So thank you so much for giving an opportunity to speak. I've been a good listener so far. So yeah, I won't go in detail, everybody, regarding the parents visa. So like many of you may not be eligible for this visa straight away, because to apply for parents visa, you have to be an Australian permanent resident or a citizen. And if you want to bring your parents from overseas on a permanent basis or on a temporary basis, this is the visa you should be looking for. There are two different categories under parents visa. One is standard parent visa, and the other one is aged parent visa. And again, there are different categories under these two streams as well. I'll discuss about parents visa quickly. There are two separate categories under parents visa. One is contributory and the other one is non-contributory. So talking about contributory, as the name said, sounds like contributory, you have to contribute a good amount, or like when I say good amount, obviously you're substantially looking at spending about $43,600 for one parent, specifically if you want to just sponsor your mom, 43,600, and along with that, if you want to bring your dad over as well, it'll be an add-on for 43,600 as well for additional applicant. Now, for contributory parent visa, it can be lodged from offshore only. So that's a direct permanent residency, and the subclass would be subclass 143. You don't have to worry about the subclasses. Don't get confused. Like there are so many different subclasses, but as I said, contributory parent visa, it's a contributory visa that you can lodge from offshore for your parents. And the processing time is about 4 to 5 years. The most important thing, what you need to see is whether you meet the eligibility, whether you yourself and your parents meet the eligibility or not. So discussing about the eligibility, the first thing you got to look at is the family balance of family test. So for an example, if you are two siblings, if you are an Australian resident or permanent resident or Australian citizen, and if you've been living in Australia and your brother or sister lives overseas, you meet the balance of family test. So you got to have minimum 50% of children living in Australia. So as I said, like if you are two siblings, one is in Australia and one is overseas, you meet the eligibility, you can bring your parents over under contributory aged parent visa. The second criteria is your, apart from that, they must meet the health and character checks as well. Like when I said health, obviously being a parent's visa, if your parents are around 60 or 70-year-old, they may have some ongoing health issues. And if they do not pass the health check, then unfortunately the visa may not be granted. So obviously before the department grants this visa, they get the health check done and they get the character. When I say character checks, I'm talking about the police checks from the home country or any country they have lived in more than 12 months. And this is the contributory one, standard contributory parent visa. The other one is like normal parent visa. I mean, the processing time is quite long, to be honest. The processing time is about up to 30 years, what the department says. So I don't see practically there is any point of applying for this visa, if it's going to take 30 years to get the visa process. So I mean, you can apply for the visa for the sake of just your satisfaction that you've lodged a visa, but this visa doesn't give you any bridging visa, because talking about this visa, standard parents visa, it can be lodged from offshore, and again, the processing time is way too long. So in order for you to go for a, like, if you want to go for a parent visa, I would say if your parents are below 50 or over 50, whatever way, like if you beat the balance of family test, you can apply for 143 subclass, which is contributory parent visa. There is another category of a parent visa, which is aged parent visa. So when I say aged parent visa, obviously you gotta be, you gotta make sure that your parents meet the age eligibility criteria for this particular visa. So with the aged parent visa, the applicant, your dad has to be minimum. Like you say, if you want to apply for a dad, yeah, the applicant must meet the minimum age of 65. So if any of your, if your dad or mom is over 65, this is the visa you can look into. Again, there are two different categories. One is contributory and the other one is non-contributory. So again, non-contributory takes a way long, the processing time is way too long as compared to contributory. So with contributory, again, there are two separate streams under contributory, and it's the same amount you have to pay. Same criteria applies here. You have to meet the balance of family test. You got to meet the age criteria. The best thing about this age parent visa is that if your parent are currently, especially at this time, I mean, if you know anybody, any of your friend who's an Australian resident or a citizen living in Australia, and if their parents are here on a visitor visa and due to COVID they couldn't go back, just have a look and check with them. If they are over 65, they may be eligible for this contributory age parent visa. You can lodge this visa. They can be granted bridging visa to stay in the country, and the processing time would be roughly about 4 to 5 years. Now, again, it's the same amount, 43,600 you have to pay for each applicant. Now, some of the things I would like to mention, like any of these parent visa categories is really beneficial if you have any sibling who is, say, below 18, 18 years of age. And if you lodge any of these applications about the parent visa, you can include your brother or sister who's below 18 in the same application when you apply for aged parent visa or contributory, either of the aged parent visa or a contributory parent visa. So it's really important for you to understand, this is a really good way for all those applicants who want to bring their siblings below 18 to include them in the same application. So though you're going to get the permanent residency for your mom and dad, but at the same time, your siblings may get the permanent residency directly as well. But before you go ahead in that, you need to make sure that you and your parents meet all the eligibility criteria for these parents' visas. So again, as I said, Weber, I don't want to go in detail regarding this because I know our viewers who are watching this video, there wouldn't be many of those applicants who meet the criteria for this visa. But if any of you who have got any friends or someone who's looking for parents' visa information, feel free to get in touch with your nearest Aussizz office. And we are pretty much based in all the states of Australia. So, we're more than happy to answer that. But basically for us to cover up this topic is to make sure that, we give all the options out there for parents who are stuck in Australia during COVID-19 pandemic situation. And if there are options available to them, they can apply for this visa category as well. So this is what I want to say. And anybody on a tourist visa here, if they do not have any no further stay condition on their visa, they are eligible to lodge aged parent visa in Australia. So this is only specific to aged parent visa. However, they can still lodge contributory parent visa as well, but they will not be granted bridging visa A. But as I said, like before starting, I don't want to go in detail. I don't want to confuse you. If you have, there are a lot of things we need to check, but the only reason why we picked up this topic to give the options out there. And most important thing I would like to mention before I hand over to Weber is for the aged parent or the contributory aged parent visa or the contributory parent visa, recently department has announced that they will be prioritizing these applications. The normal standard processing time is about 4 to 5 years at the moment, but considering the recent announcement from Department of Home Affairs, we are expecting they may start processing these applications quicker. So you can expect a turnover time probably about 3 years. So which used to be 2 or 3 years ago, but nowadays it's taking a bit longer. But as per the recent announcement, they may start processing the application quick. So if you are one of those applicant who have got parents overseas, or if you know someone, please look into this option. It could be a very good option for your parents. I think that would be enough information for parent visa, Vaibhav. I can hand it over to you. You can take it from here, please.
Thank you very much, Prince, for providing such a detailed information. And now I've got one more question that came up on our YouTube channel as well, which is Mr. Nirav is asking that what are the chances for a family-sponsored visa? I have applied for a 491 family-sponsored EOI for under the occupation Computer Network and Systems Engineer, and he hasn't got the invite yet. So what is your suggestion, please? Prince, are you able to?
Sorry, Vaibhav. Was it for me? I thought you were asking the Vaibhav.
No, I'm asking to you. Sorry, Nirav. Sorry, Prince. So the question is from Nirav, which is, what are the chances for a family sponsorship visa? I have applied for a 491 family sponsorship visa EOI under the Computer Network and Systems Engineer, but I'm still waiting for the invite.
Right. So has he mentioned about the points? How many points, Nirav, you have? I'm not sure. Did you mention about the points or not?
No, he hasn't mentioned the points. So if we can just briefly cover that.
Right. Okay. So to answer your question, obviously, depending on the points you're sitting at, Nirav, family sponsored visa, obviously it's for your occupation, nominated occupation, which is computer network engineer. It falls under pro rata. So obviously department is not prioritizing pro rata occupations at the moment. Especially this is the trend we have seen since March, since this COVID-19 started. The department is preferring the critical sector occupation. They are not preferring, they are not prioritizing the occupations which falls under pro rata occupations. But depending on the point, we have seen a couple of invites where even if you are meeting about almost 100 points, including the 15 points from a family member, there may be a chance for you to get an invitation. So don't lose hope. If you have already lodged an UI, you never know if your luck works and you may get an invitation. But to give you an overview, obviously, for under family sponsored pro rata occupations are not the priority for the department at this stage. But saying that, just keep your EOI in the queue. It may work out sooner or later for you because the invitations currently are getting processed manually from the Department of Home Affairs. So if anything works out for you, you may get the invitation anytime soon.
Thank you very much, Prince. Now, next question, Vishali, is for you. Question is from Lavdeep asking that I have 65 points as an RN in South Australia. Any chances for 190?
Yeah, so as far as we have observed these days, 190 in South Australia may not depend on points. You have the eligibility points, which is 65. The main important thing is experience. They will be issuing 190 nomination only if you have worked here for at least 12 months on a part-time basis. Luckily, even if you have not graduated from South Australia, they are considering your EOIs for 190 as long as you have worked here for at least 12 months. Or if it's in an outer region, it has to be at least 6 months. But the experience is what matters these days, not the points.
Thank you very much. Now, next question, Nirav, is for you. So is from Ram again. So when can we expect a 491 nomination announcement from Victoria?
So yeah, 491 and 190 nomination announcement might be delayed. I think every states, initially planned to announce it in October, but they are delaying it because the quota has been announced late. Actually, it was supposed to announce in May, so they have done it in October. And I think they have not internally maybe sort out the quota for each state, or even if they have sort out, they are just maybe updating their requirements, or they might be changing the occupation list or something, compared to last year. So we can say that it might be like December or January. We may expect that they might open around that time.
Right. Thank you very much, Nirav. So the next question now is from Jaspreet Singh. The question is that I have a skills assessment as an electronics engineer, NSW regional or 190 have 75 points, living at Richmond, NSW. Is it come under the critical sector? So Mr. Jaspreet, electronics engineer is not under the critical sector at the moment. However, if you are living in Richmond, it is a regional area, and there are possibilities that NSW will probably open up a state nomination program for a 491 for the regional New South Wales. And because you're living in I hope that you're working in regional area as well. So if you are living in a regional New South Wales, and if you meet the criteria, when they announce the criteria. And if you can qualify for that nomination, I would suggest that you should apply for that. But my recommendation is, if you're not working in a regional New South Wales, please try looking for a job in a regional New South Wales nearby your residence in Richmond. If not, and also not only look for a job, but also try and look for a job in relevant field of your nominated occupation, which is electronics engineer. Now, the next question is from Lubna. So the question is that there used to be a special PR pathway for PhD graduates from Victorian universities. This information is now removed from Live in Melbourne page. Do you think this will come back and will be replaced by GTI? Also, the question is quite long. So also it is wise to apply for 189 UI with 70 or 75 points for a university lecturer. So Nirav, can you please cover up this question about the Victoria nomination? Does Victoria has any priority for the PhD graduates from Victoria, which they used to have?
Yes, so actually previously there was a PhD pathway available. Like if you have done the PhD from Victoria University, like there was no occupations like occupation. As long as it's in the immigration list, you're supposed to get the invitation. But they have removed that from their website because they have changed their requirement currently for the critical occupation only. Doesn't matter like you have the PhD pathways or like you have done the master or bachelor, as long as you meet that critical sector 6 months experience requirement, like in RN or maybe in like organization where there is requirement of the critical occupation role. However, in the future, it depends actually that they might add it or not. And in recent, near future, I don't think that they will add it, but there are chances that they might come back again next year in the next financial year of 2021-22. But we need to definitely wait for that. And as you say, they're like waiting for a 75 points as a university lecturer for 189. It seems difficult because they are not prioritizing even that occupation in the PMSOL list. So there are chances that the occupations of university lecturer will remain around 90 to 95 points to get the 189 invitation. However, if they will add that occupation in PMSOL list in the future, there are chances that they might invite with less points as well for that occupation, because there might be chances that not many applicants in that occupation will have around 85-90 points. As like recently in September invitation round, we have seen that immigration has invited 65 points as well for 189 occupation, So no one has expected that one that they will do 65 points invitation. And we have heard that specifically they have invited for medical laboratory scientist occupation. So similarly, if immigration do the invitations like manually like that, depending on their internal skill requirement, then there are chances. Otherwise, there are very less chances for 75 points for university lecturer.
Right. Thank you very much, Nirav. So the next question is from Manmeet Singh. The question is that what are the chances for 75 points in 190 Western Australia? Manmeet, honestly, right now I would suggest probably wait for some time, and once we see the nomination opens up for Western Australia, and if you have studied, by the way, there, yes, there are good chances that you will qualify. But as I said, we have to wait for the announcement from the Western Australian government to see what are the new criteria, and then only we can probably put more words on these questions. For now, I would say yes, I believe that you will have a good chances if you have studied there. So now the next question is from Dinesh Sharma. So the question is, I have applied for ROI on September 9th and working in a critical sector. Have skills as a production engineer and I'm on 85 points including nomination. Any chances of being selected? Over to you, Neerav.
Yes, so as like you already applied for a ROI and you applied as a production engineer. So there are chances that they might invite as well, because we have received few invitations as a software engineer as well, like who are working in a maybe medical sectors as that occupation indirectly. So even if your role is indirectly associated with those like field, then you can get it. But they have received around like 2,500 ROI, so they might take maybe a longer time to go through each and every application and issue the invitations for applicants. So however, like if you don't get the invitation in this ROI round, you may apply it again whenever they will open again in maybe coming months.
Thank you, Neerav. Zarun Kain, I think we took his question and he's appreciating our work. So he says, thank you so much, appreciated. And the next one is now from Dipul. The question is that, is there any chance for 491 in NSW regional area, accounting 75 points? Now, I understand that, see, accounting is, so I'll take this question, by the way, sorry to not mention that before. So 491 NSW regional, I believe that you should probably try and look for a job in your field. I'm not sure whether accounting will be nominated or not. The reason is because recently when we applied for a nomination in June, when the nomination opened up for 491, a lot of accountants got an invitation, but some of the applicants were on hold, and those applicants were actually supposed to be approved in as soon as the NSW government gets a new allocation. But they were directed by the Department of Home Affairs not to invite specifically for certain occupation, which includes accountant. And therefore, we are not quite sure whether the accountant will be there or not. But my recommendation is that you should do two things. Number one, continue to live and work in a regional area. I'm sure that there will be some option to open up in future. And at the same time, start working on your plan B of, let's say, looking into another career, like, let's say, start studying nursing or some other course, which is of your interest, as well as it can lead to a permanent visa. So and Dinesh Sharma, I think again we have answered your questions already. Next question is from Mr. Atif Mahmood. Do we have a working rights while we are on a bridging visa C? Vishali, would you be able to take this question?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, in some cases, bridging C does give you work rights. If you apply for example, if you apply for permanent employer-sponsored visas or skilled migration visas, including 491, previously had applied for 489 years, the bridging visa C does give you work rights. In other temporary visa cases, no, it doesn't have work rights, but you can definitely apply for a replacement bridging C, citing compelling reasons to work. If you have a family to feed, if you have reasonably more outgoings, no income, no savings at all, then obviously in many cases the department will consider a replacement bridging C. So you can reapply for working rights.
Right. Thank you very much for the answer, Vishali. Now the next question is from Ganesh. What's the chances for a life scientist, NEC, in Victoria, 189 or 190? So Nirav, again over to you. I think Melbourne has a lot of questions, and I'm sure that you can answer this question, Nirav.
Yes, yeah. So life scientists, NEC, I think used to be in the occupation list for Victoria previously for 190 as well. However, like currently, like if you are working in your field for 6 months, then you may be eligible for ROI, registration of interest, whenever they will open it again. So for 190, like even with 65, 70, you can get it, because currently they are not looking for a points. They're looking for candidates who have experience here in Victoria. And for 189, it again depends the internal criteria of immigration, like how they invite each individual occupations, like based on their skill requirement. Like as I just mentioned that like they are inviting few occupations with 65 points as well. So depending on them, but I would say like try to maximize your points, because don't rely on immigration that they will invite with minimum points. Always try to increase your points to 90 to 95, so that you don't have any regret in the future that you have not done your enough efforts to reach to those points.
That's right. Thank you very much, Nirav, for the answer. I know we are running out of the time now. We are almost reaching an hour's session. So we do have a time limit, guys, but you can continue putting your questions in the comment box. We will try to answer these questions by replying to your messages as well. As we can see that our team has already started answering the questions too. So we will still take a few questions before we go. So the next question is from Amila. I have already completed MPA in Melbourne. Which is the best option to study during TR, Diploma of Nursing in South Australia, or Graduate Diploma in Early Childhood Teaching? Now, should I give it to you, Vishali?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but make sure that you don't say that okay, coming to South Australia.
Of course, I'm going to say this. Okay, the only reason for not recommending Diploma of Early Childhood is because it's definitely going to take you 2 years, and the biggest hurdle is the skill assessment. You have to get assessed as a child care center manager, which is practically impossible. You will need 1 year full-time equivalent job, and you will be running out of TR already during the course. And even if you have time, you may not be able to get a managerial level job in childcare. So it's definitely not worth recommending at this stage. Diploma of Nursing in SA, better choice. 1.5 year course, just 3 months of part-time requirement. And yeah, that leads you at least to a 491.
But jokes apart, I think, not only South Australia, I'm sure that, even if you study diploma in nursing in Victoria as well, Victoria does sponsor enroll nurse. So you can also consider, that's something that we can decide. We would recommend that, yes, regional New South Wales, South Australia, Queensland, or I would rather prefer regional Queensland, definitely Victoria or regional Victoria, and Northern Territory or Tasmania as well. That would be my last preference, by the way. But these are the states where you can definitely study and explore the options too for under the nursing program. Now, next question is from Harman. The question is that any chances for a developer programmer in Queensland with 90 points and 189 in 189 at 90 points and 95 points for 190, and for 491 105 points. So Mr. Prince, I think, and the client is working in the regional area for 2 years in Queensland, so in his nominated occupation.
Well, thanks a lot for the question, Harman. Let me first of all double check from your end for are you currently working full time? Because Queensland is one of the state which has got a separate criteria for currently working. So you got to be currently working full time if you're looking for the option for 190 or 491. So I assume that you've been working for last 2 years on a full time basis. If that's the case, yes, there is a very good chance December, probably by second week, that's when we are expected. That's when we are expecting Queensland to open the state nomination for 190 and 491. As I said, if you're currently working full time and you have a job offer letter for future 12 months.
Sorry to cut you off, Prince. Mr. Harman just messaged that yes, he's working full time as a software developer.
All right. So yes, this is what I was explaining. So if you're currently working full time, as I said, there is a very high chance you will get the invitation, especially if you got a good work experience. And especially what I've seen the trend in last maybe month or so in Queensland, that Queensland is with the criteria for Queensland for 190 has changed as compared to what we had last financial year, because now they are looking into the points criteria, how New South Wales look into the state nomination. So Queensland has never, specifically stressed more on this criteria. They always used to invite applicant even with 65 points. But with the recent trend we have seen, for 190, they are picking the applicant with higher points. So we haven't received any invite with anything less than 80 points for 190, apart from if you're not working in a critical sector. But if you're working in a non-critical sector, I believe that if you have over 80 points, there's a very good chance for 190 and 491 as well. In your case, you're eligible for both categories. Talking about 189 with 90 points, obviously there is a hope. Obviously, I mean, at this stage, it's hard for me to specifically tell you when we can expect the invitation for you at 90 points in developer programmer. We haven't had, with pro-rata occupations, which is developer programmer is one of the occupation that fits into that criteria for pro-rata. So we haven't had many invites in last few months from Department of Home Affairs for pro-rata occupation. So if you ask me my advice, I would probably focus on Queensland 190 in December. Make sure you lodge your UI on time. As I mentioned, we are expecting to, obviously, I assume you would have already lodged your UI for 189. There's nothing much you can do for that. You got to wait for that. But in case if you want to do something, add on into it, like in December, you can lodge your UI for 190. And as I said, just keep your eye on. You got to be in as soon as possible once they are open. And make sure you lodge for both 190 and 491 as you meet the criteria for both of these visa applications.
Thank you very much, Prince. And guys, I'm very proud to say that we are almost reaching to almost 100% answers to the Facebook questions, as well as we are just left with few more questions. I hope the panel doesn't mind if I take up all these questions so that we can achieve a target, or let's say a milestone that we have answered all the questions on our live session today, which is one of the, I think it has never happened before. So this is something, we have achieved a milestone on live session. We have answered pretty much most of the questions. So Nirav, next question is over to you very quickly. What are the current scenario for a 482 visa as an accountant?
So yeah, so for 482 visa as an accountant, so accountant is a medium and long-term skilled occupation list, So if you have a 2 years of full-time experience, then definitely you can apply for a 482 visa. And at the same time, the company or the sponsor needs to meet the requirement of the caveats. So that is like a minimum $1 million turnover and minimum 5 number of employees working in the business. So if the company meets that criteria, then definitely if you have 2 years of full-time experience, you can apply for 482 visa.
Thank you, Nirav. And the next question is also for 482. So the applicant is asking that I had an inquiry about a 482 visa. Would you please tell me the nominee minimum salary requirement for this visa in pastry cook occupation, and can this visa be extended after 2 years?
So yes, so for minimum salary criteria is like 53,900. That's a minimum salary threshold as per immigration. However, like as per the salary requirement, it depends, because if there are like experienced pastry cook already working in the business, or there is a similar position in the business with the same number of years of experience, then the salary should match as well in the business. And so if you are working as a pastry cook, then you can get the visa for 2 years, because that's in the short-term skilled occupation list. And if you meet the genuine genuine entrant criteria, when you're extending your 482, definitely you can extend it for one more time. But after that, like you can't extend it further. So that's like maximum you can get it for 2 times.
Okay, you can not extend it further while you're onshore, but you can still go offshore.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ravu, I would just like to add on to this question as well. I mean, Nirav, sorry, I just want to mention this to the client as well, that he's specifically asking for TSS visa. He can extend it for another 2 years, but you can look into your options for either 190 or 491 visa as well, depending on the state who's offering nomination to pastry cook. So try to find an employer and go to that state where they are providing nomination to the pastry cook. That will increase your chances to apply for general skill migration under 190 or 491 as well.
That's correct.
Yes.
That's the next question is from Tejal. Question is that I'm an accountant, 85 points for 189, 90 points for 190, and 491, 100 points. No work experience. Tejal, thank you very much for the question. But by the way, unfortunately, accounting does have a lot of competition, and you do need to increase your points, because 85 is definitely not sufficient. Or alternatively, as I mentioned before as well, that you should look into a state nomination criteria as an accountant itself, like let's say moving to South Australia or moving to regional New South Wales and working in your own nominated occupation as an accountant, and try and see if you can meet the state nomination criteria through that pathway, or alternatively study something else in South Australia. And that's the next question that we have, Vishali, from Toshi Pereira. The question is, my TR will end in December 2021. Planning to move to South Australia, what is the best course that I should study so that I can also focus on my PR as well? Okay, and the question is about, there is one more part of it, that can I study a social work?
Yeah, definitely. I think you still have only 1 year left, which should be used wisely. So if you are 100% sure that you won't be able to get nominated occupation, I'm not sure what your last course was, but if you have any opportunity to find an employment related to that qualification and to obtain a skill assessment, you can have 12 months of experience here in South Australia and you would qualify for a nomination. But if that is eliminated, then, and if you are planning to study, yeah, maybe you can start studying Master of Social Work if you are keen on it, which will also give you a very good chance to extend your visa further in order to complete it. And then you will have opportunity to apply for 189 or 190 or 489. For a state nominated visa after social work, you will still need at least 3 months of requirement depending on current circumstances. If not a master course, we would still recommend studying a course at diploma level, which has to be ideally diploma of nursing now, because we can't recommend a trade course now that you are running out of your visa.
Thank you very much, Vishali. And now we have Mr. Herman Bhular. Prince, you answered this question. He has written a very good review about the feedback that you have given. So it says, awesome. Thank you for the advice. Appreciate your efforts you are making to guide and spreading awareness among people like us. Thank you very much, Mr. Herman. And this all credit goes to Prince for his effort for answering your question in detail.
Well, thanks, Herman.
And Mr. Herman, thank you very much for the appreciation. This kind of appreciation makes us feel better and obviously do right thing and try even harder to help more people. And the last question now, that's the last question we have. We are left with only one question, which is just came in from Dong Farm. The question is that what are the chances for accountant 190 NSW 100 points and will be 105 in 10 months time? I'm still working as an accountant. Miss Dong, I would say, you should, yes, keep looking for an option for 190 or 189 in accounting. At the same time, because you're working in New South Wales and you're working for as an accountant in your nominated occupation, why don't you also look at this 482 sponsorship? And if you have a visa, sufficient visa, you can also look into the option of applying for a 186 visa, because you're saying that you'll be completing additional work experience in coming months. So you can also look into try and meet the state nomination criteria, or also at the same time try to apply for an employer sponsorship visa. So that's all for today's session. And before I go, I have one more question just came in on our YouTube as well from Mr. Mohammed. A very quick question, Vishali, to you. What are the chances for a 491 offshore sponsorship from South Australia? The applicant has skills assessment as a mechanical engineer and maintenance engineer, PT 79 each, and 10 years of experience.
Yeah, so that comes under chain migration category if the applicant is currently offshore. But then I think it seems difficult for the state to open this pathway, at least this financial year. We can hope for it after July next year. But this
Right.
year, even if they open in November, I don't think there is much chance for an offshore applicant.
Thank you very much, Vishali. And thank you very much, Nirav, for joining us today and providing such a detailed information about employer sponsorship visa. Thank you very much, Mr. Prince, for joining us and providing a detailed information about parent visa and taking time out of your busy schedule. And thank you very much, Vishali, as well, for coming over and providing such a good information. And I'm really happy today to see that a lot of people have appreciated work. And now I've just got a message from Nung Farm as well that we have answered question. That thank you very much, team. And another thanks from Teja as well for answering his question. So obviously this kind of appreciation do make us do the right thing, and encourages us to continue doing what we're doing. So thank you very much for appreciating our work. And I know, we are just running out of the time, but I guess, I'm not sure if everybody heard the news that, I guess in Victoria, there are some relaxations in the lockdown. We are open to business again. So Nirav, if you can just share quickly what's happening in Victoria now.
Yes, so actually there is at least one good news that they have started the retail sectors and all on 27th of October after that. And they are mainly looking to open more businesses after 8th of November. So definitely waiting for their updates, because for the office related work, they have not announced further yet, like when we can open. But definitely before 8th of November, we will have a clear idea about that. And then we will announce on our social media, like when we are planning to take an appointments or when we are planning to open the office, So, but definitely needs to wait for the final announcement from the premier.
Right. So are you thinking that, the Aussizz group will come back and commence operations on face-to-face consultation anytime soon?
It depends, because still on their websites and everywhere it says that work from home is possible. So still there is no confirmation yet on that. So we can't say or we can't announce until they clear that questions, work from home. Like if they remove that things, then definitely we can advise our clients to visit our office.
Thank you very much, Nirav. And I'm sorry, I actually missed Mr. Hamad's question. So if the panel doesn't mind, we'll take the last question. I think he did put this question before, but I missed it. So it's my apology, Mr. Hamad. So the question is that I am on a 485 visa, expires in 2021. I have a skills assessment as a telecommunications engineer and electronics engineer. I'm married. I have 8 each in PTE. In 7 days, I'm working in IT from on 1 year in college of employees that has more than 100 people, and my employer is happy to sponsor. Is there any way he can get the visa? So Mr. Hamad, the question is not very clear, but I think what you're trying to ask is that you want to get a sponsorship from your employer. So if you do have, if you're working in your occupation in IT, let's say, as you said, you're working in IT, and I would say, yes, definitely you still have a good chances to apply for an employer sponsorship visa if you do have 2 years of work experience in your field, as in IT field, basically. So not in your nominated occupation. So you don't have to be working as a telecommunications engineer or electronics engineer. But if you do have a work experience in, let's say, for example, in IT means computer network and systems engineer, and if you are working there for 2 years, yes, definitely, certainly you can apply for a 482 visa, even though you don't have a relevant qualification. But you do need 2 years of work experience, Mr. Hamad. So if you don't have the 2 years of work experience, you should wait for it to complete and then apply. And yeah, that's all for today's session, guys. Thanks for joining us and watching us live today, and asking so many questions and appreciating our work as well. And very unfortunate that this year, I guess the fireworks in Sydney is not happening, and I'm not sure if it's the same thing in other states as well. Is it, Prince?
Sorry, I missed that again. Sorry.
Is the firework happening like in Sydney? I think the government has announced that it's not happening in Sydney, fireworks. So
Well, I'm not sure about Queensland, to be honest. I'm not up to date about the fireworks, whether it's going to happen or not. But if it will happen, obviously it'll be a good thing for us to, enjoy something by the end of the year. But yeah, I mean, as of now, I'm not up to date on whether fireworks are going to happen or not.
this year has been difficult for pretty much everybody, I guess. And we hope that everybody's safe and sound. But unfortunately, there's nothing much anybody can do. We can only do what.
Yeah, I mean, I believe fireworks, it's when people come out to see all those fireworks, considering the current situation, they're going to make the social distancing. That's going to be another factor that contributes, whether is it the right way to go for the fireworks or not. So, regardless whether the government has got the plan for the fireworks or not, as long as we're taking the precautions from our end, whichever way it goes, it'll be good for everyone.
Yeah, I know, but I think it's canceled in Sydney for sure. So not happening. So, but anyways, thanks for joining, guys, and thank you, viewers, for watching us today. And we hope that you have a wonderful weekend and have a great weekend. Enjoy your time. And if you do really need help with any of your migration or education or admission related services, or if you have any questions, please feel free to contact the nearest office. We are based in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, now in Gold Coast as well very soon, and Adelaide and Perth. So if you do have questions, you can contact the nearest branch. And I know that we are not in Tasmania and Northern Territory at the moment, but if you do have questions, you can always pick your favorite branch and contact them. Not an issue. We're more than happy to help you over the Zoom or phone call as well. So definitely our migration agents are quite experienced. They are thorough in their consultations. They can provide a detailed information. Even our education consultants are very thorough with the career plans as well. So they will not only advise you on or explain the visas to you or the courses to you, but will also explain and advise you on what you should do based on your current criteria and what's your desire, or what are your criteria basically, and what are your requirements. Based on that, we do provide a customized advices for particular case. So definitely please feel free to contact your nearest branch. And thank you very much again for joining us.